asked you a question. Remember what happens? Okay, I stopped along after I discussed about the auditory ossicles, that is the malleus, incus, and stapes. I asked this question: what happens if an excessive noise? Okay, so how come an excessive noise, sudden excessive noise, does not damage the tympanic membrane or the eardrum? Okay, if the patient is conscious, if the patient is not aware that there is going to be a heavy sound, then the eardrum might be damaged. Okay, so how is this possible? Anybody has got the answers for this? Anyone? Okay, so I will just let you know. So now you know that there are three bones, right? So there are three bones: malleus, incus, and stapes. Okay. Now, when we were discussing about the ossicles, we were discussing about this pyramid. Okay, the posterior wall of the middle ear, there is an elevation which is called as the pyramid, and from the apex of the pyramid there is a muscle which comes out which is called as the stapedius muscle. Why this is called as stapedius muscle? It's a very tiny muscle. Okay, so this muscle gets attached to the stapes. It gets attached to the stapes. Okay, so that's why this is called as stapedius. Okay, similarly, the malleus. Okay, the malleus also has got a muscle which is called as tensor tympani. Okay, which is called as tensor tympani. You can see here the tensor tympani is going and getting attached to the malleus. Okay, it is going and getting attached to the malleus. Okay, so apart from the three bones, malleus, incus, and stapes, there are two muscles which are attached to the bones. The tensor tympani is attached to malleus, and stapedius is attached to stapes. Okay, now what are the function of these muscles? Okay, so what are the functions of these muscles? Okay, so here you can see in this picture, this is the malleus. Okay, the next one the incus and the stapes, and here you can see the tendon of the muscle which is the tensor tympani. Okay, the tensor tympani muscle, the tendon of this muscle, okay, is getting attached to the malleus. Okay, it is getting attached to the malleus. Okay, now what happens in case if there is a heavy sound? Okay, in case if there is a heavy sound, this tensor tympani, as the name indicates, it tenses the tympanic membrane. Okay, it tenses the tympanic membrane and then relaxes the tympanic membrane as well. Okay, so what happens when it knows that, okay, when there is going to be a heavy sound, okay, so this muscle acts. Okay, so the tensor tympani acts, okay, and thereby preventing the rupture of the eardrum. Okay, so thereby preventing the rupture of eardrum. Similarly, the stapedius. Okay, the stapedius. Okay, you can see it here. The stapedius muscle is attached to the stapes. Okay, and this muscle will pull the stapes because this one, the stapes is attached to the oval window. Okay, in the oval window, the stapes is the foot plate. This part of the stapes is attached to the oval window. You know, there is a round window and an oval window in the middle ear. Okay, the medial wall of the middle ear. So the stapes is attached to the oval window. Okay, and this muscle contracts, pulling the stapes away. Okay, it pulls the stapes bit away from the round window so that the impact, okay, the impact of the stapes on the round window is not strong. Okay, So thereby preventing rupture of the eardrum. Okay, and thereby preventing hear loss. Once again, I will tell you, you know that there are three bones, okay, malleus, incus, and stapes. Okay, and when discussing about the middle ear, we were discussing about the pyramid, and from the apex of the pyramid there is stapedius. Okay, and here you can see the oval window, and this is the round window. Okay, the stapes is attached to the oval window. The stapes, okay, is attached to the oval window. Okay, the stapes, this is present in the medial wall. Okay, so here you can see the medial wall. There is round window, oval window, and there is a protrusion from the inner ear which is called as promontory. Okay, so this oval window, the stapes is getting attached here. Okay, so what happens when the sound wave comes? Okay, so when the sound wave comes, okay, and it hits the eardrum, okay, the eardrum will vibrate. Okay, the eardrum will vibrate, and this vibrates, okay, the vibration is sent to the malleus, incus, and stapes, and the stapes is the foot plate. The end part of the stapes, which is called as a foot plate, is attached to the oval window. Okay, and when it hits the oval window, the stapes will keep on hitting over the oval window. Okay, so there will be certain vibrations which are sent to the inner ear, and from the inner ear we are able to hear. Okay, we are able to hear the sound. Okay, so this is the normal hearing process. So what happens? The tensor tympani is attached to the malleus, okay, and it thereby contracts. Similarly, the stapedius also contracts, preventing the impact, too much of impact to the tympanic membrane. Okay, preventing the malleus, the tensor tympani in this eardrum, whereas the stapedius helps to prevent damage to the oval window. Okay, the oval window. Okay, the oval window is also protected by another tympanic membrane which is called as secondary tympanic membrane. Okay, so here also there is a small membrane in the oval window which is called as secondary tympanic membrane. Okay, so this is the eardrum or the primary tympanic membrane. This one is the secondary tympanic membrane. The tensor tympani is attached to the malleus and the stapedius is attached to the stapes. Okay, so they prevent excessive damage to the eardrums. Okay, to both the tensor tympani for the main eardrum and the stapedius for the secondary eardrum. Any doubts?
So like they both contract, so they won't send the vibration or the vibration
They
or
will, they
noise.
will, they will send the vibration. I'm not telling they will not send the vibration, but the vibration will be less. Okay, the vibration will be less because even a small sound is enough to send the vibrations. So why the damage occurs? When a loud explosive voice, so when it damages the tympanic membrane, okay, so then it cannot be transferred. Okay, so what happens if the person knows that there is going to be a heavy sound? The tensor tympani and the stapedius, they will contract, they will act, okay, and thereby they will relax this tympanic membrane, okay, and the distance between the oval window and the stapes is increased, okay, it pulls away, okay, so thereby the impact or damage to this eardrum is reduced. Okay, the impact of damage to both the tympanic membrane and the oval window is reduced. Okay, so this is with regard to the muscles of the tympanic membrane. Okay, so the muscles, it is tensor tympani. The nerve supply, sometimes they might ask, Okay, the nerve supply for tensor tympani is trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is which cranial nerve? Is trigeminal nerve is fifth cranial nerve. Okay, coming to the stapedius. The stapedius muscle is attached to the stapes and it is supplied by the facial nerve. Facial nerve is which cranial nerve?
Seventh.
Good. Okay, so it's the seventh cranial nerve. Okay, any doubts? Okay, now we'll go on to the internal ear. Okay, the innermost ear where the vibrations are perceived and then it is sent to the cerebral cortex. So where we can interpret what we hear. Okay, now the inner ear, it is composed of both bony part and a membranous part. Okay, the bony part of the labyrinth, it is called as vestibule. Okay, so the vestibule, semicircular canals. Okay, sorry, this is the semicircular canals and the cochlea. Okay, so here this is the vestibule. These are the semicircular canals. Okay, and this shell-shaped structure, this is called cochlea. Okay, now inside this bony labyrinth, there are membranous structures. Okay, so one is called as utricle and the other one as saccule. Okay, so utricle and saccule. Okay, so bony part of the inner ear and the membranous part of the inner ear. In the bony part, you are able to see the vestibule, semicircular canals, and cochlea. Okay, in the membranous part, you are able to see the utricle and saccule. Okay, utricle and saccule. Okay, now let's see each of these structures in detail. Okay, now here you can see what happens. The sound comes. Okay, it hits the eardrum. The malleus moves, the incus moves, the stapes moves. Okay, the stapes will be sending the vibration into the inner ear. Okay, and then this will be going into the cochlea. Okay, now let's see like what are these parts. Just a moment, I think there is another one slide. Okay, I have not included that. Now what happens, I will just show you here. Okay, so here you can see this is the oval window and this is the round window. Okay, the oval window and the round window. Okay, just give me some time. One moment. Yes. So this is actually a physiology topic. So they will be discussing this in your next semester as well. Okay. So here you can see the sound waves are coming out. Okay. They are collected by the pinna or the auricle and then it goes to the external auditory canal. And when it hits the eardrum or the tympanic membrane, the malleus, incus and stapes, they move. Okay, the stapes will be sending the vibrations into the inner ear. Okay, through the round window. Okay, through the oval window. Through the oval window. Now, what happens once it goes to this part? This is the cochlea. Okay, the cochlea. The cochlea has got three layers. Okay, it has got three layers. Okay, scala. So here you can see scala vestibuli, scala tympani. Okay, scala vestibuli, which is on the topmost layer, and below it is scala tympani, and in between it is called as scala media. Okay, it is called as scala media. Okay, so suppose if we unwind this, okay, this is unwinding of the cochlea. Okay, so when you unwind, we will be able to see three layers: scala vestibuli, scala tympani, and scala media. Now here you can see there is a point near the apex where the scala vestibuli comes in contact with the scala tympani. Okay, scala vestibuli comes in contact with scala tympani. Okay, now when the sound waves come, all these are filled by special fluid. Okay, so they are filled with special fluid. So when the sound wave hits here, this fluid gets disturbed, just like rippling of water. So what happens when the water is calm? Okay, so there will be no movement. Okay, you drop a stone, so what happens? The ripples will start to come, right? So similarly, when the steppies hits over the oval window, the sound impulses are sent through the scala vestibuli. Okay, and near the apex, it changes. Okay, below. Okay, it goes below, that is to the scala tympani. When the sound waves come here, these sound waves will be hitting over the base of the scala media. Okay, so they will be hitting over the scala media. And when the scala media, in the scala media, there are some special structures called as organ of Corti. Okay, so there are special structures called as organ of Corti. And if this organ of Corti disappears, okay, so sorry, and this is the organ of Corti is the one which is responsible for the hearing process. So when this gets disturbed, when the sound wave comes to the scala tympani, they make the scala media to vibrate. Okay, and when the scala media vibrates, the organ of Corti also is getting disturbed. Okay, and when it gets disturbed, okay, so they will be sending a nerve impulse through the cochlear nerve. Okay, through the cochlear nerve. Okay, so once again, after the stapes hits the the oval window, okay, the vibrations are sent through the scala vestibuli, then to the scala tympani. Okay, and then the sound waves comes and hits the round window. Okay, and then it get disappeared in the middle ear. Okay, the stapes is attached only to the oval window. So what happens when the sound vibrations come to the lower part, that is the scala tympani? Okay, so they makes the scala media to vibrate. They make the scala media to vibrate, and when the scala vestibular, the media is vibrating, okay, the special structures called organ of Corti, they also the organ of Corti, they also get stimulated. Okay, and when they are stimulated, the nerve impulse forms, and then it sends the impulses towards the brain. All right, anyhow, you will be repeated the same thing in your next class. Okay, right now what you need to know is these structures. Okay, cochlea and the organ of Corti is the main structure which is responsible for hearing. Okay, so here in this anatomical part, here you can see scala vestibuli, scala tympani. Okay, and excuse me. And between these two structures, okay, so there is a space which is called a scala media. Okay, and in this scala media, there are tiny structures called as organ of corti. And when this organ of corti is stimulated, it leads on to hearing impulse. Okay, so here you can see one special nerve which is coming from cochlea, which is called as cochlear nerve, and there is another few branches of the nerve which is called as vestibular nerve. Okay, so this is the vestibular nerve, this is the cochlear nerve. So that's why they are together called as vestibulocochlear nerves. Okay, vestibulocochlear nerves. Okay, so in the inner ear, there is scala vestibuli, scala media, and scala tympani. In between vestibuli and tympani, there is scala media. The scala media is very important. Okay, and it contains a tiny room-like structure which is called a scala media. In the scala media, there is organ of corti, which helps in hearing process. All right. Any doubts?
No, doctor.
All, all right. So here you can see this is a bony labyrinth, and the bony labyrinth, inside it you can see the membranous labyrinth. That is the utricle, and this part is called a saccule. Okay, so this is utricle and saccule. Okay, and here in the utricle there are three semicircular canals. Okay, now these semicircular canals are perpendicular to one another. What is the meaning of being perpendicular with one another? Okay, so say for example, this semicircular canal is perpendicular to this one. Okay, behind. Okay, so this semicircular canal is perpendicular to this one. This one is perpendicular to this one. Okay, so these semicircular canals, they are perpendicular to one another. Okay, so they are perpendicular to one another. Now, what is this, or why is it like this? The ear, apart from the auditory impulse, it is also responsible for balance. Okay, it is also responsible for balance. So what happens when a person moves? Okay, say for example you are standing on one leg, okay, or you are climbing a mountain. So what happens? You are not straight. Okay, so when you look up or climbing up the mountain, okay, so the organ of the semicircular canals, they will realize it. They realize in what position you are. Okay, and then they will help in balancing our body. They help in balancing our body. Okay, so this is with regard to the utricle and saccule. Okay, so both this utricle, saccule, and the semicircular canals, they are concerned mainly with balance. Okay, so they are mainly concerned with balance. Any doubts?
So the semicircular canals help in balancing the body.
Yes. Okay, we are able to stand it upside down. Okay, or sometimes in one leg we are able to stand. Okay, so all this is brought about by the vestibular system. Okay, so because in the semicircular canals also there are organ of corti. Okay, small cells, small hair-like cells, and at the top of the hair cells will be the organ of corti. So when a person stands on one leg, this organ of corti moves because of the imbalance. Okay, so it moves, and then it will be sending the signals to the brain saying that the person is in a different position, and he needs to balance himself. Okay, so if he is not able to balance himself, then he will fall. Okay, so it will send the trigger to the brain. then the brain realizes that, okay, this person is unstable. Okay, so then it will be sending the information to the motor cortex, sensory motor cortex. Okay, you remember central gyrus, pre-central gyrus, post-central gyrus. Okay, so it will be sending the information there, and from there, okay, so they will be sending the signals again. Okay, so they will be sending you how to manage the patients. Sorry. So they will be sending you the, that is from the brain. Okay, so from the brain, it will be sending the signals to the spinal cord. Okay, to the spinal cord. Okay, and from the spinal cord, it will be sending it to the muscles. So we are able to maintain our position. Okay, so we are able to maintain the position. Okay. So once again, I'll tell you, whenever we are standing in a different position, the semicircular canal moves. Okay, the semicircular canal moves, and the vibration is sent to the brain through the vestibular nerve. Okay, through the vestibular nerve. Okay, now the brain realizes that the person is in imbalanced position, and it will be sending signals to the spinal cord. Okay, the spinal cord then send the signals towards the muscles so that the person is able to maintain the body posture. Okay, without falling down. All right. Any doubts? All right. The last one. Okay, the auditory neural pathway. Okay, so how is the auditory neural pathway? How does it go from what we hear? Okay, so as I said before, there are two nerves. Okay, the vestibular nerve and the cochlear nerve. So they are together called as vestibular cochlear nerve. They are together called as vestibular cochlear nerve. So the vestibular nerve is concerned with balance and equilibrium, whereas the cochlear nerve is concerned with hearing. Okay, so vestibular with balance and equilibrium, and cochlear is for hearing. All right. Any doubts?
Doctor, can you send us practice questions about all the topics so we can practice how to
Yes.
answer?
Yes. Okay. You have any doubts?
No, thank you, doctor.